Hey guys, I wanted to go over a couple practice problems before you guys take your quiz. And we're going to do a problem that actually has a negative radical. And I don't know if you guys remember, but just for example, if we can't have a negative number under the radical. So in order to get the number under the radical to be a positive number, that's when we have to use our imaginary number. So what we do is the negative sign comes off, we write an I, and then we keep the 64 underneath. So that's what it's going to look like if we ever have this situation and we have a negative number there. That's the imaginary number. Okay. All right. So I gave you guys a copy of this. This is the graphic organizer for the quadratic formula. It is in the Google Classroom. So I figured that I would just go ahead and use it so you guys can just see if it's something that you guys want to use or not. The one that you can either print it off like I did, or you can use the fillable version through Google Slides. All right, so the first thing that we need to do is find our A, B, and C value. So we have a 1 for A, we have a -6 for B, and then we have 25 for C. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, using our quadratic formula, we're going to go ahead and plug in the appropriate number where the value, the A, B, and C values are supposed to go. So a B goes there, so it's going to be a -6. Another -6. A is 1. And C is a +25. Okay, I'm trying to write. I printed out a small one, so I hope you guys can see the numbers still. And down here is going to be a 1. So next thing we're going to do is multiply it, simplify it, and make it look a little neater. Okay, so we have a double negative here, so it's going to give us a positive number. So we're going to get 6 plus or minus. Let's go ahead and get our square root together. We have a -6 squared, so that's -6 times -6. That's going to give us a +36 because it's two negatives multiplying together. So we'll get a +36. And then we have a -4 times 1, which is going to give us a -4. And then if we multiply -4 times 25, that's going to give us a -100. So let's add our -100. And it's all going to be over 2. So let's simplify this a little more and subtract the 36 minus 100. So 6 plus or minus the square root. When you subtract 36 minus 100, you're going to get -64. So -64, and it's all going to still be over 2. So when I'm seeing this negative and I'm looking up here, which is the exact same number, what are we going to do? We're going to pull out the negative symbol and use our imaginary number. So what we'll end up having is 6 plus or minus I radical 64 over 2. I'm going to move on to the other side because I don't have much room and I write super big. Okay, so we have 64 under the radical. And if I take out my perfect square chart, let's see if we have 64 on here. We do. And is 8. So the square root of 64 is going to be 8. So let's rewrite. So we have 6 plus or minus 8 divided by 2. I'm sorry. All right, we need to make sure that we add the I because that's still an imaginary number. So 8I is now representing the imaginary number. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and simplify it. So 6 divided by 2 gives us 3 plus or minus. If we divided 8 divided by 2, it's going to give us a 4. So we're going to do 4 and not forget to put our I. And then it's going to still require us to separate them out. So our two answers would be 3 minus 4I. And then we'll have 3 plus 4I. And that'll be our answer. So this video is going to, of course, be posted. So if we need to come back to it, we can do that. Let's try another one. Actually, let's do another, let's do one that has another imaginary number. I don't think that one does. However, if I can turn the page with my long nails. Okay. So this one's going to give us an imaginary number too. So let's try this one. First thing we're going to do again is identify our A, B, and C values. So for A, we have 2. For B, we have 1. And for C, we have 25 again. All right, let's plug in our values. We have a positive 1, positive 1. We have A as 2. And we have C as 25. And then A again, which is 2. All right, so let's go ahead and make it look a little neater. So we have a negative 1 plus or minus. Let's get our square root symbol. 1 square, of course, is going to just be 1. And then you have negative 4 times 2, which is going to give us 8. And then we need to do negative 8 times 25, which is going to give us 200. So it'll ultimately be minus 200. And then 2 times 2 is 4. So we'll put everything over 4. All right, so let's go ahead and subtract it. So we know that 1 minus 200 is going to be a negative number. And it's going to be a negative 199. So let's rewrite it with that in place. So negative 1. And then negative 199 is going under the radical. And then it's all divided by 4. Now again, since we have a negative number under the radical, we're going to have to pull out that negative and make it into an imaginary number, I. So we'll end up getting I radical 199. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we have a negative 1 And then we have, I'm going to put the I behind the 99. So then we have -1 plus or minus the square root of 199, and then I at the end. I put I at the end because I didn't want it to get confusing. Like during those times, like say I had a number here, say I had an 8 right here or something. If I put the I behind the 8, it would look like the imaginary number went with the 8 instead of with the 199. So I put it behind it. And then we're still dividing it by 4. So since it's a plus or minus, we're going to have to go ahead and separate them out. And we can do that on this side. So our first answer is going to be 1 plus the square root of 199i divided by 4. And then our second answer is going to be -1 minus radical 199i over 4. And it can't be simplified anymore, so that's what our answers are going to be, these two. Let's do one more. Let's do one that's not an imaginary number. Let's try this one. So same thing, we're going to identify our values. So we have 2 for A, we have 1 for B, and then we have a -45 for C. So let's go ahead and plug them into our formula. So 1 for B, 1 for B, 2A, -45 for C, and then 2 for A again. So of course we want to make it look prettier, so we're going to simplify it. So we're going to get -1, and then plus or minus, get our radical going, and then we know that 1 squared is just going to be 1, and then -4 times 2 is going to be a -8. And we want to use our calculator, but I don't have a big calculator out, so let's use our phone. Let's use my phone. Can you guys see that? Yes, you can. All right, so we're going to do, I'm up here not even knowing how to work my phone, guys. So, so we're going to do a -4 times 2, and it's going to give us -8. Can you see the negative? There you go. -8, and then we're going to do times 45, and then add the negative, and then equals. And it's 360. So it's going to be a positive 360. Over 4. Let me move this out the way. Okay, so positive 360 plus 1 is going to give us 361. So we'll do -1 plus or minus 361 divided by 4. Okay, so can we simplify 361? Can we look at our perfect squares? So I don't have my perfect square chart doesn't go that high. So let's just check our calculators and see if 361 is a perfect square. So let's take 361. I'm going to use the square root. You guys, I want to show you something. Okay. In my video, I had talked about, there you go. I had talked about us knowing that we were taking the square root because we saw the 2 up there. And I said sometimes it might have a 3 or a 4. So over here you can see that it has a 3. So we would not want to hit that button because that is a cube. This one is squared. So just make sure when you're using calculators, you're pressing the right one. I just wanted to show you that real quick. Let me try to focus again. Focus. There you go. All right, so the square root of 361 is 19. Cool. So what we're going to end up doing is rewriting -1 plus or minus 19 over 4. And can this be simplified anymore? No, it can't. So that's going to be our answer. So what we're going to do is go ahead and do the plus or minus. So -1 plus 19 over 4. And then we have -1 minus 19 over 4. And that is going to be our answer. Let me close my bracket so it looks pretty. All right, so that's going to be our answer. So you guys have a quiz that will be posted on Google Classroom. I definitely want to encourage you guys to go through the lesson from Wednesday because there's a lot of good examples in there and practice on solving the quadratic formula using the actual formula. And also how to convert these to decimals. So, you can use your decimals calculator if you want to. However, when it's multiple choice and when you're choosing your answers, it's not going to be in decimal format. So that's why it's important to know how to get the decimal. So you would have to take each answer and figure out what the decimal is in order to match it if you are using decimals. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. If you want to do a Zoom because you have questions and we can go through a few problems, we can do that as well. Just let me know, either through GoGuardian or just shoot me an email, doliver@nwlsd.org. See you guys.